When the bakery door opened, the sound of the small bell seemed too soft for the weight of the mother and daughter entering, advancing slowly as if they had grown accustomed to apologizing for existing. The girl, huddled beside her mother, gazed at the bread in the display case, with that mixture of longing and shame that only a hungry child can carry, while the woman took a deep breath, trying to gather the courage to utter the words she so feared. The employees discreetly interrupted their movements, noticing something unusual, and the millionaire, who was waiting for his order nearby, looked up as if sensing he was about to witness something that shouldn't be ignored. The mother then approached the counter, holding her daughter's hand firmly, and let out a voice that sounded more like a plea for forgiveness than a request. "Miss, please, do you have some expired bread I could take to my daughter? She hasn't eaten since yesterday." The phrase fell like a silent shock. The employee froze for a second. The girl lowered her face in deep embarrassment, and the millionaire felt his own breath catch as he realized that this simple plea carried an entire history of pain that no one there seemed prepared to hear. Before we delve into this amazing story, tell me which city and state you're watching from. Leave a comment and I'll reply with gratitude. And while you're at it, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and like this video. We want to share more stories like this. From the moment the employee stood motionless before the unexpected request, an uncomfortable silence filled the bakery, as if someone had muted all the surrounding equipment, leaving only the mother's heavy breathing and the little girl's lost gaze, pressing her small fingers against her palm in a timid attempt to hide the trembling caused by hunger. The employee tried to answer, but her voice caught in her throat, trapped between shock and compassion, and in that brief interval, the millionaire, who until then had been observing everything out of the corner of his eye, found himself unable to continue feigning neutrality. He didn't know those two, but there was something in their posture, the silent dignity, the mother's care in keeping her daughter embraced by the arm, the effort to appear smaller than she really was. That touched a part of him that had been dormant for years. And while the mother waited for an answer, the girl, her eyes fixed on the floor, tugged at the hem of her shirt, as if asking them to leave before shame turned into tears. In that movement, the millionaire noticed how thin she was, how weak she seemed, and this caused an old discomfort to rise in his throat, as if something inside him wanted to rush towards them. And at the same time, as if something was holding him by the collar, reminding him that this was not his place. The employee finally managed to articulate a few words, asking if they wished to wait a moment because perhaps there was something in stock. And the mother nodded quickly, as if grateful for a tiny door opening in the midst of a storm. But before she could finish the sentence, a man in the back, probably another customer, let out a muffled laugh, as if he found it amusing that someone was asking for old food. And this sound, small and malicious, made the girl shrink even further, hiding half her face behind her mother's arm. The millionaire turned his head towards the laughter with a hard look, one of those that silences any arrogance. And for a brief moment, the entire room seemed to hold its breath, perceiving the growing discomfort that was forming in the atmosphere. The mother thanked the employee again, always in a tone too low, as if justifying her presence, and approached the girl, stroking her hair with a trembling hand, repeating that everything would be all right, although her expression betrayed that she didn't quite believe it. The millionaire, unable to look away, involuntarily recalled an old afternoon when he was young and his mother, already a widow, tried to maintain her dignity while counting coins in front of a supermarket checkout. He remembered how she avoided looking around so that no one would notice they were in need, and for a second he saw his own past reflected in those worn clothes, in that look that tried to appear strong, in that desperate desire not to humiliate herself in front of her daughter. The employee returned from the stockroom with empty hands, explaining that there was nothing expired that day, and the mother forced a smile of understanding, thanking her as if she had received a gift despite the negative response. She touched her daughter's shoulder and began to back away, clearly ready to leave before someone chased them away with a look. But the girl glanced back one last time, gazing from afar at the display case full of soft, freshly baked bread. And that image lingered in the millionaire's mind like a photograph too painful to ignore. He felt something break inside his chest, an old sensation mixing memory and regret. And before he could stop himself, he took a step forward, approaching the counter while watching the mother pull the door open with difficulty, as if each movement weighed more than it should. The gesture almost went unnoticed, but the girl's gaze met his for a second, and in that instant he realized that there was hunger, shame, and hope mixed in the timid gleam of her eyes, as if silently asking someone, anyone, to change the course of that day. It was that look that paralyzed him, that prevented him from simply returning to the request he had made to himself, that prevented him from ignoring the pain of others as so many did daily. The millionaire took a deep breath, as if preparing to confront a weight he himself had buried in the past, and called the employee over with a firm gesture, interrupting her attempt to organize bread on the shelf. The employee turned around in surprise, and in that second, the mother was already almost leaving, her hand wrapped around the doorknob, ready to disappear through the door, like just another invisible soul in the city's routine. But the millionaire knew, somewhere deep inside him, that if he let them both go like that, he would never forgive himself. And while the mother pushed the door open with her shoulder without imagining what was about to happen, he simply looked in their direction, feeling a decision forming in his chest like a silent thunderclap about to break. As the mother crossed the threshold, believing that the day would end exactly like all the others, with the bitter feeling of having tried her best and still failed, the millionaire finally found his own voice. Not an imposing voice like the one he usually used in meetings, but a firm tone that carried a truth he could no longer ignore. He called the employee by name, asking her to wait, and then asked her to bring a large bag, the kind only used when someone bought many items at once. The employee's eyes widened in surprise, but she didn't dare question him. Something in his expression said that this decision was non-negotiable. Meanwhile, the mother, already outside, hesitated for a moment upon hearing the movement behind her, but decided to continue walking, perhaps too accustomed to the idea that nothing special would ever be for her. The millionaire watched her through the glass door, observing the girl stumble slightly on the step, too weak to maintain her own pace, and this detail, minimal to anyone else, was the final trigger that made him act. He walked towards them with large, decisive strides and called out, "Wait, please!" The mother turned with a discreet startle, as if fearing she was about to be scolded, and pulled her daughter closer to her body as a natural shield. Before she could apologize for something she didn't even know if she had done, the millionaire took a deep breath and with unexpected stillness extended the bag that the employee had just handed him. But it wasn't just an ordinary bag. Inside it were fresh bread, simple sweets, selected fruits, some basic items for the week, and, at the bottom, a discreet box with food that would last longer. The mother's eyes widened, and she immediately tried to back away, repeating that she couldn't accept it, that she had no way to pay, that she had only asked for something old, worthless, something nobody wanted. The millionaire, however, gently inclined his head and said that he wasn't selling anything. He only wanted the girl not to go hungry another day. And at that moment, as if an invisible dam broke inside her, the mother let out a muffled sob, covering her mouth with her hand in a futile attempt to contain her tears. The girl, not quite understanding, opened the bag and touched one of the still warm loaves of bread, as if needing to confirm that it was real, and when she felt the warmth between her fingers, she lifted her face with a shy smile that made the millionaire feel a lump rise in his throat. He then realized that it wasn't just about bread, nor about expired food, nor about generosity. It was about dignity, about a child who, for the first time in a long time, held something made for her, and not leftovers destined for the trash. And this hit him like a silent blow, making him realize how far he had distanced himself from ordinary people throughout his life, hiding behind his fortune as if it were enough to justify every distance he had created. But at that moment, looking at that girl, with eyes shining not only with hunger but with hope, he understood something he hadn't allowed himself to feel in a long time: that it was still possible to repair the world around him, even if it was one piece at a time. The employee watched everything through the door, her eyes brimming with tears, realizing she was witnessing something rare, and the customers who minutes before had laughed mockingly now shrank in silence, confronted by their own pettiness. The millionaire bent down to the girl's level and asked her name, and when she answered in a soft voice, he smiled genuinely, a smile he hadn't smiled in a long time. Then he reached out to the mother and said that if they allowed him, he would like to help them beyond that day, not out of pity, but because he believed that no one should face life alone when the world has more than enough for everyone. The mother cried again, harder this time, holding his hand as if finding a safe haven after years adrift, and the girl instinctively hugged the bag to her chest as if protecting a treasure. And it was in this simple gesture that the millionaire found the perfect closure for that moment, the vivid reminder that all true change begins when someone decides to see the other as an equal. As they said goodbye, the door swayed in the wind, and for a brief second, the millionaire looked inside the bakery and noticed something he had never seen before. It wasn't the smell of bread that warmed the atmosphere, but the stories that each person brought with them when they entered. When he returned to his position at the counter, the employee gazed at him with silent admiration, and he, for the first time in many years, felt that he had done something that truly mattered, something that no amount of money could buy. The girl looked back before disappearing down the street, and in that last look full of innocent gratitude, the millionaire found confirmation that he had made the right decision. And so, on that ordinary day, in an ordinary bakery, 3 lives changed forever. That of a child who regained her belief in goodness, that of a mother who found hope where she expected contempt, and that of a man who finally understood that true wealth was never in what he possessed, but in what he was able to offer. And if this story touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Share this video with someone you love too. Click now to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of the upcoming stories we're preparing with great care for you.